Hey, what's going on everybody, and welcome back to the Whiskey Cove. And on today's episode, we look at 9 bourbons you have to have. Run the video. Alright then folks, let's get into today's video, shall we? So these 9 bourbons we will be talking about, you don't have to sort of limit what you drink to 9 bourbons, but if you haven't got these bottles and you're someone who has quite a few bottles, you probably want to go out and get them because they're either great value for money or just phenomenal taste in whiskey. And these, in my opinion, are just 9 bottles that you just have to have. Yes, when it comes to whiskey, everything's subjective, so take that as a grain of salt, but these are my recommendations for you at home there. So maybe let me know your recommendations, or if you would change anything about these, please let us know down in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much, we appreciate it. What am I drinking tonight? So I'm actually drinking, and this bottle isn't on the list, so I'm drinking Jack Daniel's Triple Mash. When I did the review on this, I wasn't so much of a big fan. It started opening up a little bit more. That kind of corny note is kind of still there, but it's kind of subdued a lot more now. So it's actually turned out to be a fairly decent whiskey. I still wouldn't give it a high rating, and I probably won't replace it. It's just kind of like a one and done, unlike the Bonded, which is fantastic. So with that being said, let's get into this video, shall we? Let's get out of the way maybe some of the more obvious ones, I guess, on this list. So first up, the first bourbon I recommend for you folks at home is going to be Buffalo Trace Single Barrel. Yes, you're probably wondering how far away is this bottle. No, this is actually a Stumpy, a pint-sized bottle. I managed to pick this up fairly recently here. It hasn't been on our store haul video, but this is a 375 milliliter bottle. Just get a regular Buffalo Trace Single Barrel. I know it's not going to be easy to get them, but they are around. They're excellent value for money. The regular size ones are normally coming in around about $30. And again, it's a single barrel. I would say that the Buffalo Trace single barrels are probably better than the Elmer T. Lee single barrels. And it's considerably less money and much easier to find. So if you're able to find the Buffalo Trace single barrels, definitely get them, because you have to have them in your kind of daily drinking or kind of like your collection or whatever it is your relationship is to whiskey. And every time I see a single barrel Buffalo Trace, I try to pick the one up if it's a different one that I already have, because these guys are just daily drinkers for me, and this is phenomenal juice. So that was the first one, specifically the single barrel Buffalo Traces. Next up, my next bourbon for you folks at home is going to be any of the Maker's Mark Wood Finish and Series special releases. I've just brought down the BRT02 back from the list there, back up from the shelf. I brought that down. This is probably my favorite actually out of the list. But you can get any one of those ones up there. Just any one from the Wood Finishing series, because I think they're really great value for money. I think Maker's Mark do a phenomenal job at just getting some really consistent, good juice in the bottle. And the Wood Finishing series kind of exemplifies, or is an example of all of that. This probably cost me about $65, so not too pricey in today's market of whiskey. And they're just very unique and very tasty as well. I haven't had a bad one, and they're all really great value for money. And it is like a wheated bourbon, so it's going to give you a little bit of more variance than what was with the Buffalo Trace. So that is the Maker's Mark Wood Finishing series as the bottle number 2. So then for bottle number 3 on this list, we went with Old Forester 1910. So if you're looking for maybe like a more toasted bourbon or double barrel bourbon, then this is definitely the bottle for you. It's not too high of a proof. ABV is 46.5 or 93 proof. Very findable bottle of whiskey. You can walk into most stores and see this sitting on shelves. MSRP is about $50 to $55, so not terrible whatsoever. Some of the flavor notes I get from this is like beautiful burnt marshmallow and just like decadent kind of like chocolate and maple sauce. It is very much a dessert bourbon. So maybe have something with it. Maybe that's something that's spicy. Just try to cut through the sweetness that this is. But very, very, very good whiskey, and one that just sits on shelves, so you should definitely be able to find that. So that was bottle number 3. So for bottle number 4 on this list, we went with Wella Special Reserve. It doesn't necessarily have to be the Special Reserve. I just feel like you have to have a bottle of Wella in your kind of collection or what whiskey you drink. This special reserve cost me about $30. Not easy to find in a lot of states, but if you're able to pick one up, definitely do. If you're able to find any of the other Wellas at MSRP, then definitely pick them up as well. But I think you're gonna have to hunt a little bit to probably get this bottle, but it's definitely worth the hunt. It's, you know, it looks phenomenal on the shelf. It just feels good to just own some Weller as well. And again, you know, this is a wheated bourbon, much like the maker's mark, so you're gonna get some different flavor notes from this whiskey. But it's just an integral part of whiskey, Weller is right now. It's just an integral part of bourbon. Everybody who drinks bourbon or talks about bourbon, Weller's never too far away from their thoughts because it's just great juice. This is probably my least favorite one. Try to get the full proof. I know that's a big ask, but if you're able to get it, definitely try hunting for the full proof. Don't overpay for it, but it's definitely worth finding. So that was Wella, special reserve for bottle number 4. So for bottle number 5, and if you haven't got this whiskey in your home or wherever it is that you live, then you definitely need to get it, and that is Wild Turkey 101. A very robust whiskey. You're gonna get some of that turkey spice and maybe a touch of peanut there as well. But it's 101 proof, so it's a beautiful sipper. You know, it's not low proof, so it's not too thin and it's not too high, so it's not too hot. So it just sits right in the middle there as well. You can drink it on a weekday, you can drink it on a weekend, you can put some ice in it, you can put this into a cocktail. It's just a very versatile whiskey. And for $20 to $25, it's excellent value for money as well. It's not too much more to be said about Wild Turkey 101. It's just an absolute staple of the bourbon world, and that's why I recommend this is bottle number 5 for the bourbons that you have to have. So for bottle number 6, sticking with excellent value for money bourbons, we went with Evan Williams Bottled in Bond. Much like the 101, this is again 100 proof, but what we haven't had so far is a bottled in bond whiskey, which is why we wanted to put Evan Williams Bottled in Bond on this list. This is cheap stuff. It's like $13 to $14 for a regular size bottle. You might get you will get even more of a bigger discount on the bigger bottles as well, which is why I get them in the bigger bottles. You can definitely drink it neat, but it's known to be put into a cocktail. And again, much like the 101, it's very versatile. Throw an ice cube in it, there's multiple things that you can do. If I have friends who come down who don't necessarily drink whiskey and they want a cocktail that has whiskey in it, I'll probably put this in there. And that's not because I'm trying to be cheap. It's just because this is a great whiskey for that exact purpose. So if you haven't already got Evan Williams Bottled in Bond, you have to pick this one up. So that was bottle number 6. So that leaves us with 3 left. And the 7th one, we went with Early Times Bottled in Bond. There's been a little bit of a pattern for the last couple of bottles here, and that is just great value for money with whiskey. Yes, this Early Times is starting to become a little bit harder to find now. It's owned by Sazerac, and you might want to, if you have the ability to buy a couple of these, just kind of maybe sit on 3 or 4, because I'm sure as this keeps gaining popularity, that it's probably going to be even more harder to find as the months go by. So you might want to sit on a couple of bottles just to have some reserves if you do like this juice. But if you haven't got it already, you definitely need to go out and buy it. Ranges between $20 to $25, so again, excellent value for money. This is the Sazerac version with a cork, with the metal screw cap here. But if you're able to find anyone with a black top, then that's even better. That was when Brown Foreman used to own it. And many people say that the juice tasted a little bit different and maybe a little bit better. Maybe not so much for me. I can't really tell that there's too much of a difference, or at least not worth mentioning anyway. So again, much like the Evan Williams Bottled in Bond, this is also bottled in bond, which means 1 distill in season, 100 proof, and then at least 4 years old. So you are knowing you're getting at least a 4-year-old whiskey for like $20 to $25, which isn't too bad. And it's also a liter bottle as well. And again, another whiskey that stands up in a cocktail. The nose on this guy, you got like red berries for days. It's a little bit more spicier on the palate than what comes across on the nose. So it has a bit of a different dynamic that you're getting like a bouquet of fruits and some floral notes on the nose. And then when you dive in on the body, you're actually getting like more spicier type tobacco notes. So it definitely lends to a pretty complex whiskey. So that was bottle number 7, Early Times Bottled in Bond. So that leaves us with the last 2, and these might require more hunting than probably these ones, but we went with Elijah Craig Barrel Proof. So if you haven't got an Elijah Craig Barrel Proof in your kind of whiskey drinking or in your collection, you definitely need to pick one up. It is one of the better value for money whiskeys in that kind of $60 to $80 price bracket. you would compare these, you would compare this whiskey, or it's kind of fights in the bracket with something like the Booker's. If you're able to pick up, can't find this, then maybe the Larceny as a wheated barrel-proof bourbon is a good alternative as well. And also as well, they've just started doing this bottle, which is the Bernheim barrel-proof. I haven't got into this, so I can't really recommend it, but the regular Bernheim is great, so I'm really excited to get into this. But this is also another Heaven Hill alternative for Elijah Craig, but you definitely need to get one of these. I feel like the last couple of releases haven't been as good as maybe like the 2020 releases. This one is the C919. I'm kind of nursing it a little bit because I'm never going to find one again. MSRP is at, like I said, about $60 to $80. You're getting great value for money. Again, a barrel-proof bourbon. This one is 68.4%, so this one's getting up there. But the last few I've seen have kind of been on the lower end of 60, but they're still excellent tasting, or still beautiful tasting. You're gonna get a lot of those barrel char notes. You're gonna get maybe a little bit of peanut brittle in there, a little bit of spice, but it's actually pretty drinkable for a barrel-proof whiskey. So if you haven't got a Elijah Craig barrel-proof, you need to get one right away. So that brings us to the last whiskey here. And that is going to be the hardest one to find on this list. But if you haven't got one, you need to get one, because this bottle just takes your bourbon experience to the next level. And that is going to be Buffalo Trace's Stag Junior. Very difficult bottle to find, I know it is, but it's just worth the hunt so much. Don't overpay for it. I know sometimes I've overpaid for whiskey, so I can't tell you folks at home not to overpay for stuff. You know, do whatever you want to do with your own money at the end of the day. But if you're able to get one of these for anything less than like 125 bucks, I would definitely snap that up straight away. Like I said, this just takes bourbon, or like bourbon tasting or bourbon notes, to the next level. It's a well-rounded, complete bourbon. Definitely still one of the better value for monies out there. MSRP on these are supposed to be around about $60, which is insane value for money and worth every penny at that point. This one is coming in at 65% alcohol, or 131 proof. The Stag Juniors are probably my favorite barrel proof whiskey, with a close up against the Jack Daniel's barrel proof, which, you know, you could argue is or isn't bourbon, and then also the Old Forester barrel strength rise. They are probably my top three. I don't want to say everyday barrel proof whiskeys, because this is, you know, to a lot of people a unicorn, and it kind of is to me. It is not easy to find. However, you know, if I'm trying to want something a little bit nice and a little bit higher proof, I'm gravitating towards those three. And I could have put the Old Forester barrel strength in this part of the video, but I went with the 1910. I didn't want to kind of quite double up on that. So then these are the 9 bourbons that I recommend. If you haven't already got them, you need to pick them up. You either need to go out there and buy them, because a lot of them do sit on shelves, or you need to spend a little bit of time hunting for them. Yes, I know some states will probably never get Stag Junior, or at least right now, unless Buffalo Trace continue to ramp up their numbers. But if you're someone who travels for work or finds themselves in different states, then it's definitely worth lending a bit of time just to do some whiskey hunting there as well. Have really great conversations with store owners, make some really good relationships, and then kind of ask questions, and then you never know, right? You just never know. So as we drink through the world's whiskeys one glass at a time, these were 9 bourbons you have to have. Cheers.